Hey there folks, welcome to the channel. I'm glad you could make it because in today's episode, we're going to be experimenting with some really fun ingredients inside of a salami. Cranberry, orange zest, walnuts, Parmesan cheese. Maybe we'll smoke it. I'm not sure. I haven't made the sausage yet. We're going to write it together. We're going to write the recipe together and then we're going to execute it. 60 days later, which is how long I think it's going to take to dry, we'll give it a taste. Funny thing about recipes like this is sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. When you're dealing with dry cured products, the texture often and almost always changes. The flavors radically change. And so being able to create a balanced salami is really the goal. And so that's what we're going to be trying to do in today's episode. Let's make the cranberry walnut salami.
Let's look at the meat for this cranberry walnut salami. We're going to be using lean pork and pork back fat. You can use whatever meat you want. If you want to use goose or duck, rabbit, maybe a little venison, or a combination of all of that, have at it. I think it'll be great. Using different meats, different proteins are going to give you different textures, different flavors, and it's fun to experiment with that. So we're going to be cutting this up into pieces that are small enough to fit into our grinder. So you can do strips or chunks. Just don't make them too big. The bigger the pieces are that your grinder needs to grind, the more heat that it's going to generate, which could slowly degrade the quality of your salami. The grinding step is by far the most important step. It's the foundational step when it comes to not only making salami, but sausage. And so you want to make sure that your pieces are cold, your grinder plate and knife is sharp, and that's just the very beginning. We're going to build on that through the process. So that's my salami meat. We're going to place this into the freezer so that it can partially chill. Under 34 Fahrenheit is my goal. Let's look at the spices. I will admit, I am kind of experimenting with this spice profile. We're going to be doing a little wine, 2 tablespoons. Next to that, we've got salt, cure number 2, and dextrose. We are reducing the amount of dextrose a little bit because the wine also has fermentable sugar. So we don't want this to be a tangy sausage. I've got sage, onion powder, and coarsely ground black pepper. We also have a touch of orange zest, which I've added a pinch of baking soda to. Garlic powder, and of course, savory. This salami does have a few additions, first being toasted walnuts. The reason you should toast your walnuts is because it's going to kill off any potential mold or bacteria that might be on the walnut, but it's also going to elevate the flavor. So, toasted walnuts, all chopped up, ready to go. I'm also going to be using dried cranberries, chopped up, and this has been sanitized with a food sanitizing solution. Thing is, we don't want to introduce a bunch of weird bacteria to the inside of our salami, so whatever additions you add, if you can, make sure that they are sanitized, either by heat or a liquid sanitizer. Our final addition is going to be Parmesan cheese. I've already cubed it up. I think this is going to be an interesting ingredient, not only for texture, but also for flavor in this salami. Okay, this is going to be a fermented sausage, so we are going to be adding a group of beneficial bacteria in the form of a starticulture. We're using the starticulture known as Flavor of Italy. Notice how I open the pack, just a little cut in the top right-hand corner. What I don't want to do is dip the spoon in the pack. That could contaminate the culture. Instead, I want to pour the culture onto the spoon. And that's going to minimize potential contamination for the culture that remains inside that pack. So there we go. Easy enough. We're going to close it down. And this gets stored in the coldest part of your freezer all the time. So if you ever pull it out, immediately put it back in your freezer, give that a little swirl, and let it rehydrate on your countertop at room temperature for about a half an hour. One thing I particularly like to do is stick this into a vacuum seal bag. I'm using a resealable vacuum seal bag. And if you've watched Celebrate Sausage over the years, this is the exact same bag that we've been using since like season 3 or something like that. Great bag, resealable. You can get it at the sausage maker, and they're pretty inexpensive. All right, the casing that we're going to be using is a natural hog casing, but it's been dried. All right, so you don't have to store this in your freezer or your fridge or wherever you keep your hog casings currently. These unique casings are natural and edible and do not need to be stored, so you can just store these in a cool, dark place. They won't take up any refrigerator space. And notice that these are sewn at one end, so there's only one opening. The sausage maker sells these. They also sell another version that you can cut to size, and in that version, you have to tie off both the top and the bottom end. But all we're going to do is soak these in some warm water for about 10-15 minutes, and they will be ready. By now, our meat should be partially frozen. And we're talking under 34 degrees Fahrenheit. Looks absolutely beautiful. You don't want it completely frozen. Otherwise, that could be, problematic in its own right. You want the meat to have a little bit of give to it. And that's where we're at now. So let's get this ground on an 8mm plate. Love the grind, looks great. Beautiful particle definition, and we are now going to mix it. So, paddle attachment, stand mixer. This comes together very quick. We're going to add our starter culture first, and the recipe link in the description box below is going to have the exact quantities for all of the things that you need to add if you want to make this salami. All we're doing here is mixing to incorporate that culture, at which point we're going to add our spice blend and then continue mixing. We're looking for a sticky batter. In goes the wine. This is going to loosen up that meat, help get that sticky consistency that we're looking for. Right now I'm just kind of looking at how it's behaving, honestly. Sometimes these ingredients tend to act a little funny, but it looks like we are okay. In with the add-ons. So we got the walnuts, the cranberries, and the Parmesan cheese. The batter is already incredibly sticky. We're just mixing to incorporate, and it looks like we are done. Great looking farce, a lot going on in it. And honestly, I'm picking up the wine probably more than anything, which kind of concerns me a little bit, but we'll see what happens. I am using the largest stuffing tube that I have for the Sausage Maker's 5-pound sausage stuffer. And we're just going to put a little bit in at a time and tamp it down. You know, when you start to add all kinds of interesting ingredients like Parmesan cheese and walnuts, you do run the risk of creating more air pockets. And in the world of salami, that's something that you definitely don't want. So you want to make sure that you pack it down really good. No air pockets. That's the name of the game. And on to the base station. All right. Are you new to salami making? Let me know in the comment section below. What's your experience? Have you been making it for years? Are you a master? Or are you just interested and maybe getting inspiration? Regardless, if you have a question, leave it in the comment section and I'll try to help out. Okay, now unlike sausage making, salami making, you're going to put a significant amount of pressure on the end of that horn. We want to pack that in as tight as possible. Whereas sausage making, it's light pressure. Salami making, it's a little more firm. It's a little tighter. Now, there is a balance because you can, especially with a casing that's natural, rupture that casing. So you don't want to squeeze it so tight that you have a casing blowout, but you do want to pack it in there very, very tight, and that's what we just finished doing. Right there, I'm using the sausage stuffing horn cleaner. You've seen me use it quite a bit throughout the show. Easy way to get the meat out of the horn. Okay, we now need to tie off our salami. And notice I did a simple knot just to set it in place. I'm going to wrap the end of that casing over that simple knot and create a bubble and tie another simple knot right on top of it. This is what you call it's kind of a modified bubble knot. But anyway, once you get that second simple knot, you've created a loop. See that loop? We're going to come back on the opposite side of that and tie another simple knot. And what we're doing is we're creating a spot that makes it very difficult for the salami to come undone. Now the bottom is already sealed off, so we don't have to worry about it. But right here on the top, we are going to make a hanging point that we can hang our hook with. And now we've tied off our salami. That's it. Hey, let me know if you'd like to see a dedicated video on knots for sausage making. That might be kind of interesting. All right. Now that we're done with that step, we're going to prick our salami. Now, I know in sausage making, there's two camps, prick or don't prick. When it comes to salami, there's not two camps. You should always prick. Pricking your salami increases breathability. It also gets rid of any air pockets. And remember, whatever you prick your salami with, you want to make sure that it is sanitized. You don't want to introduce bad bacteria. Okay, we need to weigh it because this is what's going to tell us when it's ready. And my starting weight is 1,277 grams. That's what's called the actual weight or the green weight. If we want to lose 40%, we need to get down to 766 grams. When it comes to salami making, you could lose anything between 30 and 40%, and you're going to get different results. Some salami are better at higher weight loss, some are better at lower weight loss. The final step of this process is to ferment, and when it comes to fermenting your salami, now we've already added the starter culture, we just need to put the salami in an environment that the starter culture likes. Temperature and humidity, that's the only thing that it cares about. So as long as it's in the right temperature and has the right humidity, it's going to ferment beautifully. With that being said, you could literally put it anywhere you want as long as temperature and humidity are within the parameters of the starter culture. For this starter culture, the temperature needs to be between 75 and 95 with a high humidity of 80% or higher. I'm going to leave this right on my counter, cover it with cling film. The cling film gives me the humidity, and my room temperature is about 78 degrees Fahrenheit, so we don't have to move it. But if you don't have adequate conditions at home, you could put this in your oven with the light on, oven off. You can ferment sous vide in a vacuum bag, or you could put it in a cooler with like a seed mat or a warming blanket in there. It doesn't really matter. Remember, temperature and humidity. So we're going to ferment between 75 and 85 with a high humidity, plus 85%, for 15 hours. After 15 hours, we're going to cold smoke this until we get to our pH target. And our pH target is going to be anything between 4.9 and 5.3. So right now, this has been fermenting overnight for 15 hours. It's now the next morning. And we're going to finish this process off by putting it into our smoker. You do not have to smoke this salami. You can let it ferment on your counter. But I think adding a little bit of smoke might be fun with these autumn flavors, sage and walnut. And anyway, I do put a little pan in there with water and a paper towel drooped over the side to help increase the humidity inside my smoker. And we're now going to load the smoker up. This is a cold smoke process, so the temperature in the smoker cannot get over 85. Remember, we still need to finish fermenting our salami. So right now we're adding a combination of apple wood and hickory wood. We're going to close the smoker down. The smoker itself is off, so the temperature of the smoker is whatever the room temperature is currently, which is about 78 degrees. And I'm going to let it smoke for about 5 hours. So the total fermentation time from start to finish has been 20 hours. And with this particular starter culture, that's generally how long it takes to get to the right pH. All right, so we're going to take the pH. And the reason I'm wearing gloves right here is because that cold smoking process, puts creosote all over the place, and I don't want to get my hands all stained up right here first thing in the morning. Looking at the little sample piece that we have, I'm going to kind of show you what to look for. It should be glossy. It should be fairly well bound together. It should have a springy texture and a wonderful aroma. It should have a beautifully sweet, slightly fermented aroma. It should also be brighter in color, a little pinker, a little redder. If it has all of that, you're on the right track. To test the pH, we're using the Apera Instruments pH meter. We use this not only in cheese making and gardening and managing our swimming pool, but also sausage making, salami making. And remember, 4.9 to 5.3, that's our target. 4.92. All right, I say we're done. That's absolutely perfect. If you test the pH and you're at 5.2, you can either pull it or you can let it go another hour or two to develop a slightly different flavor. At this point, I'm going to call it because we're right there. And out of the smoker it comes into our drying chamber. So this is the final step of the salami making process, is that's putting it into a drying condition where it's going to hang out for the better part of about 60 days. Here we're going to develop flavor, lose moisture, and get to a place where we have shelf stability. The temperature of your drying chamber should be between 50 and 60 degrees Fahrenheit. 55 degrees Fahrenheit or 13 degrees Celsius is pretty average. Humidity should be between 75 and 80%. And you can target anywhere between a 30 to 40% weight loss. We're targeting 40%. And while we're using a drying chamber, if you happen to live in an area where drying in your basement, cellar, or if you happen to have a cave nearby works, you can certainly hang it in there and you're going to produce a great product. 60 days have passed. Now remember, this is a 60 millimeter casing. It's time to check on our salami. As you can see, we've added a few projects since then. And just by the feel of it, I can tell you that it's already done. So let's take a closer look before we slice into it. If you give it a squeeze, your salami should feel uniformly firm. If you've been making salami a while and you have case hardening, you'll kind of know that feeling because the outer edge of it will feel more firm than the squishy center. But this feels very nice. Wow, there's a lot going on inside this salami. Loving the different colors. Nice and firm right there in the center. I'm going to slice this off camera and we'll give it a bite.
Cranberry walnut salami. I've been waiting 60 days to try this. Check it out. What do you think about the way that it dried? Edge to edge. Looks like it dried perfectly. A lot of cranberries sprinkled out. Looks like we've got a little toasted walnut here, and right here in the middle, a lot of Parmesan cheese. Oh, that looks good. And you know what makes a great salami? The chamber. 95% of the success will be determined by the chamber. Dial in the parameters, airflow, humidity, temperature. That's where it's going to be spending most of its time. Now, I live in an area where the weather's not too conducive to make salami year-round, so I need a dry curing chamber. Today we use one from the sausage maker, but we've had great results with our DIY chamber that we started off with many, many years ago. And if you're wanting to build your own dry curing chamber, I'll put a link to the tutorial I have right about here. If you happen to live in an area where the weather's favorable for making salami, even if it's only in the wintertime, like Italy, France, Spain, countries like that, all you got to do is take your salami and bring it down to your basement, let it hang, and you're going to have absolutely amazing results. All right, so with all that being said, let's give our salami a little smell, and then we're going to give it a taste. Ooh, okay. Wow, I'm definitely picking up it's like a smoky orange, actually. Oh, cranberries, very nice, a little mellow. I'm loving the Parmesan cheese and probably the savory because I'm getting these beautiful umami, beefy, aromatic qualities. Oh, wow, that's wild. Okay, going down. Ooh. Wow, I was not expecting that to come through the way that it did. This salami, the way the recipe is written right now, is very orange forward. I want to say I only added like 2 grams of orange zest, but in my opinion, it's bringing too much of that orange flavor. I was hoping to maybe just create like an accent, a little bit of a brightness, a little bit of a acidity to the sausage, but instead we're getting a very orange flavored salami, which, don't get me wrong, it isn't bad. It's not disgusting. It's just not what I was going for. A lot of dry ingredients in the salami. You had the walnuts, you had the dried cranberries, you have the Parmesan cheese. And I want to say that we dried this to a probably 40%, maybe 42%. I think that if we would have pulled the salami a little bit sooner, maybe targeting a 34, max 35% weight loss, we'd end up with a better product. Better mouthfeel, more tender, textures within the salami that are more cohesive. Overall, flavor-wise, it's quite nice, with the exception of the, exaggerated orange-forward element. I mean, I kind of like it. I like the acidity. The cranberries coming in nicely. It's not too overwhelming. The smoky level is very subtle, but it's definitely there. If I had to rank this salami right now, the way the recipe's written, the way that it tastes right here, I'd give it a solid 6.9 out of 10. And truth is, I don't want you to make a 6.9 salami. I mean, come on, that's not what we're all about. So let me know in the comment section below what you want me to do with this recipe. If you want, I'll put a link in the description box below with the original recipe. That's this version right here. And then I'll put a secondary recipe in that same link with the revised version. I'll be sure to title them accordingly so that you know which one is which. And then, of course, you can decide which one you want to make or just use the recipe for inspiration. I do believe, though, that this salami does have great potential. It just needs to be a little more balanced, and right now it's not. They can't all be winners. I'm glad you got to see the process. Thanks for joining us. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up. And if you enjoyed today's episode and you're not currently subscribed, hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you don't miss a single upload. Like tomorrow's, we've got another sausage making tutorial. Same time, same place, here on the Two Guys in a Cooler channel. We'll see you then. Bye-bye. 6.9 down the hatch. Oh, that's so ridiculous. Here we go. It's not bad. It's just not great. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.